In a world where power decides destiny and love is never meant to cross class lines, one quiet girl dared to be seen, and one powerful man risked everything to keep seeing her. Tonight on Afro Asia Diaries, we bring you a story of forbidden love, impossible choices, and the moment one man chose a woman over a billion-dollar legacy. This is not just a love story. It's the moment loyalty, identity, and destiny collide. Yuri Alba's hands trembled as she folded the crisp white sheets in the servants' quarters, the whispered warnings of the other maids still echoing in her ears. "Stay away from the young master," they'd said. "He ruins girls like us." But Yuri had no choice. The remittance she sent home to Lagos each month kept her younger siblings in school, kept her mother's medication bottles filled. She couldn't afford pride, couldn't afford caution. The Han family mansion sprawled across the hilltop like a sleeping dragon, all traditional curves and modern glass, old money wrapped in new architecture. Yuri had been working there for 2 weeks, keeping her head down, her eyes lowered, her path carefully charted to avoid the third-floor east wing where Woojin Han kept his private rooms. She'd heard the stories. The parade of maids who'd left in tears or fury, the engagement to Minister Kang's daughter that somehow made his reputation worse rather than better, as if the promise of marriage gave him license to collect conquests before the cage door closed. But on the 15th day her luck ran out. She'd been carrying fresh towels to the guest bathrooms when his voice stopped her in the corridor, smooth as aged whiskey. "You're new." Not a question. An observation delivered with the casual entitlement of someone who'd never been denied anything. Yuri turned slowly, every survival instinct screaming at her to run. Woojin Han stood in his doorway, still in his morning clothes. Expensive casual wear that probably cost more than her annual salary. He was infuriatingly handsome in the way of men who knew it, sharp jawline and careless hair, eyes that seemed to catalog every detail of her face with unsettling intensity. "Yes, sir," she managed, grip tightening on the towels. His smile was slow, dangerous. "I haven't seen you around. What's your name?" "Yuri Alba, sir." Protocol demanded she bow. He didn't. Something flickered in his expression. Surprise? Interest? "African. Nigerian, sir." She could feel the weight of his attention like a physical thing, pressing against her resolve. "If you'll excuse me." "No." The word was soft but absolute. "I won't excuse you. Not yet." He leaned against the doorframe, blocking her path without actually blocking it, a predator's lazy confidence. "From now on I want you attending to my rooms. My meals. You'll report directly to me." Panic fluttered in Yuri's chest. This was how it started according to the stories. The special attention, the private requests, the inevitable fall. "Sir, I'm assigned to the guest wing. Mrs. Choi wouldn't." "Mrs. Choi works for my family. I'll speak to her." His eyes never left hers. "Unless you have an objection?" It was a trap wrapped in a question. Object and she'd seem insubordinate, difficult, the kind of employee easily replaced. Agree and she'd be walking into the fire with her eyes open. Yuri thought of her brother's acceptance letter to university. Her sister's textbooks. Her mother's hospital bills. "No objection, sir," she said quietly. His smile widened, victory and promise tangled together. "Good. I'll see you at dinner then." Yuri Alba. The way he said her name, savoring each syllable like something expensive on his tongue, made her skin prickle with warning and something else, something she refused to acknowledge. She bowed curtly and walked away, feeling his gaze follow her down the corridor like heat from a fire she was standing too close to. That night, lying in her narrow bed in the servants' quarters, Yuri stared at the ceiling and made herself a promise. She would not be another cautionary tale. She would not fall for Woojin Han's practiced charm, his careful seduction. She would do her job, collect her salary, and remain invisible in all the ways that mattered. But even as she made the promise, she could still feel the weight of his attention, the dangerous curl of his smile. And beneath her righteous determination, in a place she didn't want to examine too closely, something thrilled at the challenge in his eyes, the way he'd looked at her not as a servant but as something worth pursuing. The ceiling offered no answers. Outside, the Seoul night hummed with distant traffic and closer silence. Somewhere in the mansion above, Woo Jin-han was probably already asleep, or perhaps awake and thinking of his fiancée, the beautiful, accomplished Lee Ji-won, daughter of one of Korea's most powerful politicians, whose engagement photos had been splashed across every society page 3 months ago. Yuri turned onto her side, pulling the thin blanket up to her chin. She would be strong. He would be smart. She would not fall. But the echo of his voice lingered in her memory like a prophecy. "I'll see you at dinner, then." And despite everything, all the warnings, all the wisdom, all her carefully constructed defenses, Yuri felt the first hairline crack in her resolve, thin as spider silk and just as likely to catch her when she fell. The next morning arrived too quickly, dragging Yuri from restless dreams into the pre-dawn darkness of the servants' quarters. She dressed carefully in her uniform, black dress, white apron, her hair pulled back into a tight bun that made her look older, more severe, less like someone worth noticing. Armor, she thought. Every button a piece of protection. Mrs. Choi, the head housekeeper, found her before breakfast. The older woman's face was carefully neutral, but disapproval radiated from her like cold air from a freezer. "The young master has requested you specifically for his wing," she said, each word clipped. "I assume you know what this means." "I can handle it, Mrs. Choi," Yuri said, meeting her eyes. The housekeeper's expression softened slightly. "They all say that. The smart ones leave before it's too late." She handed Yuri a key ring. "His bedroom, his private study, his bathroom. You'll serve his breakfast at 8, lunch at 1, dinner at 7. Do not enter his rooms without knocking. Do not engage in conversation beyond what's necessary. Do not," she paused, weighing her words, "do not let him convince you that you're special. You're not the first and you won't be the last." The words stung more than they should have. Yuri took the keys, their weight somehow heavier than mere metal. "I understand. I hope you do." Mrs. Choi turned to leave, then stopped. "For what it's worth, I hope you're stronger than the others. This family needs good workers more than the young master needs another conquest." Alone again, Yuri pressed the keys against her palm until they bit into her skin. She thought of home, of her mother's tired voice on their last video call. "Are you eating enough? Are they treating you well?" She thought of the money already allocated in her mind. School fees, medicine, rent, food. Every one precious, every sacrifice calculated. She could do this. She would do this. The east wing was quieter than the rest of the house, insulated by wealth and privilege. Yuri knocked on Woo Jin's bedroom door at exactly 8 o'clock, breakfast tray balanced against her hip. No answer. She knocked again, louder. "Come in." His voice was rough with sleep, intimate in a way that made her hesitate before turning the key. The bedroom was enormous, all dark wood and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Seoul skyline. Woo Jin sat up in bed, sheets pulled around his waist, hair disheveled in a way that somehow made him more attractive rather than less. He smiled when he saw her, slow and satisfied. "Punctual. I like that." He stretched, muscles moving under expensive pajamas. "Put it on the table by the window." Yuri crossed the room, eyes fixed on the tray, hyper-aware of the bed behind her, of him watching. She arranged the dishes carefully. Rice, soup, banchan, tea. Each movement precise and professional. "You're very focused," he observed, amusement coloring his tone. "Are you always this serious, Yuri Alba?" "I'm working, sir." She stepped back from the table, hands clasped in front of her. "Woo Jin," he corrected, sliding out of bed. "When we're alone, call me Woo Jin." "That wouldn't be appropriate, sir." He laughed, moving toward the table with the easy grace of someone comfortable in his own skin. "Mrs. Choi warned you about me, didn't she? What did she say? That I'm dangerous? That you should keep your distance?" "She said you're engaged, sir." The words came out sharper than intended. "To Minister Kang's daughter." Something flickered across his face. Annoyance? Resignation? Lee Ji-won. "Yes, I'm engaged." "Does that matter to you?" "It should matter to you, sir." He studied her for a long moment, then sat down to eat. "You're different from the others. They either threw themselves at me or ran away. You're doing neither." "I'm doing my job." He took a bite of rice, still watching her. "How long have you been in Korea?" 2 years, sir." And before that? Lagos. With my family. You send money home. Not a question, he'd clearly looked into her file. Mother, 2 siblings. Father deceased. You're here on a work visa renewed every 6 months, dependent on maintaining employment with a sponsoring family. Yuri's chest tightened. The casual recitation of her vulnerabilities felt like a threat, even if he didn't mean it that way. Yes, sir. So you can't afford to lose this job. He set down his chopsticks, expression unreadable. That's why you took the position even after hearing about me. You're trapped here. I chose to be here, sir. Did you? He stood, moving closer. Not threatening exactly, but deliberate. Or did circumstances choose for you? There's a difference. Yuri held her ground, though every instinct screamed at her to step back. If there's nothing else, sir, I have other duties. There is something else. He was close enough now that she could smell his cologne, something expensive and subtle. I want to know why you're so determined to dislike me. I don't dislike you, sir. I don't know you. Then get to know me. His voice dropped, intimate. Stay. Have tea with me. Talk to me like I'm a person instead of a job requirement. You are a job requirement, sir. But her voice wavered slightly, betraying her. He smiled, hearing the crack in her armor. 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking. 5 minutes of conversation and then you can go back to avoiding me. It was a mistake. She knew it was a mistake. But something in his expression, a flash of genuine curiosity beneath the practiced seduction, made her hesitate. 5 minutes, she agreed. Then I have work. They sat at the table, an odd parody of intimacy. Woojin poured her tea with unexpected care, his movements graceful and practiced. Tell me about Lagos, he said. What do you miss most? The question surprised her. She'd expected flirtation, not genuine interest. The noise, she said slowly. It sounds strange, but I miss how loud everything is. The traffic, the markets, the music always playing from somewhere. Seoul is quiet by comparison. Too controlled. I've never been to Africa, he admitted. My father thinks it's too unstable for business. He prefers dealing with Europe, America, China. Safe investments. Your father sounds like he doesn't take risks. My father takes calculated risks. There's a difference. Woojin's smile turned bitter. Everything in this family is calculated. Marriage, business, reputation. Even scandals are strategic sometimes. Is that what I am? Yuri asked before she could stop herself. A strategic scandal? He looked at her sharply, then laughed. Genuine amusement this time, not the practiced charm. No. I don't know what you are yet. That's what interests me. The honesty caught her off guard. She took a sip of tea to cover her confusion, the liquid burning slightly against her tongue. Your 5 minutes are up, sir. Woojin, he corrected again, but he didn't stop her when she stood. Same time tomorrow? I'll bring your breakfast, sir. I'll look forward to it, Yuri Alba. She fled, heart pounding in a way that had nothing to do with fear. Behind her, she could feel him smiling, and she hated how much that affected her, how the careful pronunciation of her name lingered in her mind like a song she couldn't stop humming. The rest of the day passed in a blur of duties. Cleaning, serving, avoiding the knowing looks of the other maids. At dinner, she brought his tray to the study where he was working, papers spread across a massive desk. He looked up when she entered, and for a moment, something unguarded crossed his face. Pleasure. Relief. As if he'd been waiting for her. You came, he said simply. It's my job, sir. Right. Your job. But he smiled anyway, and Yuri felt that dangerous crack in her resolve widen just slightly, letting in a sliver of light that felt uncomfortably like hope. She left quickly before she could do something stupid like smile back. That night, lying in bed, she composed a message to her mother but didn't send it. The job is fine. The family is wealthy. I'm managing. What she didn't write, I think I'm in trouble. I think I've already started to fall. Outside, Seoul glittered in the darkness, a city of lights and shadows. Somewhere in the mansion above, Woojin Han was perhaps looking at the same night sky, perhaps thinking of his fiancée, Perhaps thinking of the African maid who refused to fall at his feet. Perhaps thinking of her. Yuri deleted the unsent message and turned off her phone, plunging the room into darkness. Sleep wouldn't come easy, she knew. It never did anymore, not since a womanizer with careful hands and dangerous eyes had said her name like a promise. Not since she'd realized that avoiding him was going to be impossible, and wanting him might destroy everything she'd worked so hard to build. 3 weeks passed like a fever dream, each day blurring into the next. Yuri fell into a rhythm that felt less like routine and more like ritual. Mornings in Woojin's room, carefully avoiding his eyes while he watched her move through her tasks. Afternoons where she'd find excuses to check on him, telling herself it was diligence when she knew it was something darker. Evenings where their conversations stretched past professional boundaries into something that felt dangerously like friendship. He told her about the pressure of being a Han, the weight of expectations that sat on his shoulders like stones. She told him about Lagos, about her father's death when she was 16, about learning to be strong because there was no other choice. They talked about music, books, the strange loneliness of being surrounded by people who only saw what they wanted to see. And every day the space between them grew smaller. "You're playing with fire," warned Minji, one of the older maids who'd taken a reluctant liking to Yuri. They were folding laundry in the servants' quarters, the mundane task providing cover for dangerous conversation. "I've seen this before. He makes you feel special, makes you think you're different from the others. Then his fiancée shows up or his family notices, and suddenly you're the problem that needs to be eliminated." "It's not like that," Yuri protested, but the words felt hollow even to her own ears. "It's always like that with men like him." Minji's hands moved efficiently through the sheets, her expression sad. The last girl, Sujin, she was in love with him. Really in love. He promised her everything. Then his mother found out and Sujin was gone the next day. No reference, no severance, just gone. I heard she went back to Busan with nothing. The story settled in Yuri's stomach like lead. "I'm not Sujin." "No," Minji agreed quietly. "You're smarter. But smart doesn't always save us from our hearts." That evening, Yuri knocked on Woojin's door for dinner service, her mind still churning with Minji's warning. No answer. She knocked again, then used her key, assuming he was out. The bedroom was empty, but she heard water running in the attached bathroom. She should leave, come back later. Instead, she found herself setting down the tray, arranging the dishes with trembling hands. She could wait just a moment, let him know dinner was ready, then. The bathroom door opened. Woojin emerged in a cloud of steam, hair wet and dripping, a towel slung low around his hips and nothing else. Water droplets traced paths down his chest, his abdomen, disappearing beneath the towel. He stopped when he saw her, surprise flickering across his face before settling into something more intense. "Yuri." His voice was rough. "I didn't hear you knock." He should look away. She should apologize and leave. Instead, she stood frozen, watching a water droplet slide down his collarbone, following the line of muscle and skin. Her heart hammered against her ribs, loud enough that she was certain he could hear it. "I brought dinner, sir." The words came out barely above a whisper. "I'll just..." But he was moving toward her, closing the distance with slow, deliberate steps. Not rushing, giving her time to run if she wanted to. She didn't run. "You've been avoiding me," he said softly, stopping just inches away. "Ever since our conversation about Lagos. Did I say something wrong?" No. She could feel the heat radiating from his skin, could smell soap and something essentially him. "I've just been scared." He reached up, gently tucking a strand of hair that had escaped her bun behind her ear. His fingers lingered against her cheek. "I'm scared too." "Of what?" Her voice shook. "You have everything." "Not everything." His thumb traced her jawline, achingly gentle. "I don't have a choice in who I marry. I don't have freedom to live my own life. And I don't have you. You can't have me." But even as she said it, she swayed toward him, her body betraying her words. "You're engaged. This is wrong." He cupped her face in both hands now, forcing her to meet his eyes. What she saw there stole her breath. Not the practiced seduction she'd expected, but something raw and real. Longing. I know it's wrong. I know I shouldn't want you. But I've never met anyone like you, Yuri. You see me. Not the Han family heir, not the wealthy playboy, not the convenient marriage prospect. You see me. Woojin. His name escaped before she could stop it, intimate and desperate. He leaned in slowly, giving her every chance to pull away. Tell me to stop, he whispered against her lips. Tell me you don't want this and I'll never touch you again. I'll let you go back to being just my maid and I'll marry Ji-won like I'm supposed to, and we'll both pretend this never happened. He should say it. She should stop this before it destroyed everything. But when his lips finally touched hers, soft and questioning, all her carefully constructed defenses shattered like glass. The kiss started gentle but quickly deepened, weeks of tension and denial pouring into it. Yuri's hands found his bare shoulders, feeling the heat of his skin, the strength in his muscles. He pulled her closer, one hand tangling in her hair while the other pressed against the small of her back. She gasped against his mouth and he took advantage, the kiss turning hungry, desperate. He walked her backward until her legs hit the bed, never breaking contact. They tumbled onto the mattress together, Yuri's uniform bunching around her thighs as Woojin braced himself above her. His wet hair dripped onto her face, cold droplets that made her shiver. You're beautiful, he murmured, trailing kisses along her jaw, her neck. I've wanted to do this since the first moment I saw you. Her hands explored his back, feeling the play of muscles as he moved. This was insane. This was suicide. But God, it felt like the first real thing she'd done since arriving in Korea. His lips found hers again and she arched up into him, wanting more, wanting everything. A sharp knock at the door made them both freeze. Young master. Mrs. Choi's voice, professional and implacable. Your mother requests your presence in the main drawing room. Miss Lee has arrived for dinner. His fiancé. Reality crashed over Yuri like ice water. She scrambled out from under him, horrified by how quickly she'd forgotten everything. Her job, her family, her self-respect. Woojin reached for her, but she was already moving, straightening her uniform with shaking hands. Yuri, wait. I have to go. She couldn't look at him, couldn't bear to see regret or worse, satisfaction on his face. This was a mistake. It wasn't. Another knock, more insistent. Young master. I'll be right there, Woojin called, frustration evident in his voice. He turned back to Yuri, still sitting on the bed in just his towel, looking rumpled and impossibly beautiful. We need to talk about this. There's nothing to talk about, sir. The title was deliberate, a wall thrown up between them. You should get dressed. Your fiancé is waiting. She fled before he could respond, slipping out through the door and nearly colliding with Mrs. Choi in the hallway. The older woman's eyes took in Yuri's flushed face, her disheveled hair, her swollen lips. Understanding and disappointment warred in her expression. Go to the kitchen, Mrs. Choi said quietly. Help with the dinner service. And Yuri? Fix your hair. Shame burned through her as she hurried away, feeling Mrs. Choi's gaze like a brand. In the bathroom by the servants' quarters, she stared at her reflection, lips red from kissing, eyes bright with unshed tears, the unmistakable look of a woman who'd just made the worst decision of her life. Her phone buzzed. A message from her mother. Your sister got her exam results. Top of her class. Your money is making all the difference, my dear. We're so proud of you. Yuri pressed her hand to her mouth, muffling a sob. This job was supposed to save her family, not destroy her. But she could still feel Woojin's hands on her skin, could still taste him on her lips. And beneath the shame and fear, a terrible truth pulsed like a heartbeat. She wanted more. She wanted him. She was already in love with him. From the main house, she could hear the sounds of refined dinner conversation, the musical laugh of Lee Ji-won, the warm tones of Woojin's mother welcoming her future daughter-in-law. Yuri splashed cold water on her face and returned to work, moving through the evening like a ghost, serving courses and clearing plates while carefully avoiding the dining room where Woojin sat beside his fiancée. But once, just once, she glanced through the doorway and found him looking back at her. Their eyes met across the distance, and the longing in his gaze nearly brought her to her knees. Later that night, alone in her room, her phone lit up with a message from an unknown number. We need to talk. Tomorrow. Please. She stared at it for a long time before typing a single word. Then she turned off the phone and lay in the darkness, listening to her heart beat out a rhythm that sounded terrifyingly like his name. Morning came with the weight of inevitability. Yuri dressed in the gray pre-dawn light, her hands steady despite the chaos in her mind. She'd barely slept, the night filled with fragments of sensation. Wooden's mouth on hers, the heat of his skin, the terrible sweetness of surrender. And beneath it all, the echo of Lee Ji-won's laughter, a reminder of everything that stood between them. She arrived at his door at 8 sharp, professional armor back in place. When she knocked, his response was immediate. Come in. He was already dressed, standing by the window with his back to her, silhouetted against the Seoul skyline. The breakfast tray felt heavy in her hands as she crossed to the table, hyper-aware of the bed where they'd almost. We need to talk about yesterday. His voice was carefully controlled, but she could hear the tension underneath. There's nothing to discuss, sir. She arranged the dishes with mechanical precision. It was inappropriate. It won't happen again. Don't do that. He turned, and the raw emotion on his face made her breath catch. Don't retreat behind formality and pretend you didn't feel what I felt. What you felt. The words came out sharper than intended. You have a fiancé, Woojin. A beautiful, accomplished woman from a good family who your mother clearly adores. What exactly is there to feel besides guilt? Everything. He moved toward her but stopped when she stepped back. I feel everything when I'm with you. Do you think I wanted this? Do you think I planned to fall for my maid? Fall for me? Bitterness leaked into her voice. Or fall for the challenge I represented? I'm not like the others. I didn't throw myself at you or run away crying. Maybe that's what makes me interesting. His jaw tightened. You think this is a game to me? Isn't it? She met his eyes, forcing herself to be brave. Minji told me about Sujin. About the promises you made before your family made her disappear. How is this different? Sujin was. He stopped, running a hand through his hair in frustration. That was different. I was different. I didn't love her. The word hung between them, dangerous and electric. Love. He'd said love. You don't love me, Yuri whispered, even as her heart screamed that he might. You barely know me. I know that you send half your salary home to support your family. I know you read Achebi and Adichie and get angry at poorly written African characters in Korean dramas. I know you hum when you think no one is listening, always the same song. Some Nigerian artist I looked up because I wanted to understand what made you smile like that. He took a careful step closer. I know you're scared of what you feel for me because you're smart enough to know it could cost you everything. And I know that when I kissed you yesterday you kissed me back like you were drowning and I was air. Tears burned in Yuri's eyes. Stop. Why? Because it's true. Another step. I've been engaged to Ji-won for 4 months. 4 months of smiling for cameras, attending functions, playing the dutiful son. And I felt nothing. Nothing. Then you walk into my life with your pride and your strength and your refusal to see me as anything other than human, and suddenly I can't breathe without thinking about you. This is impossible. But her resolve was crumbling, eroded by the sincerity in his voice. Your family will never accept me. I'm a foreign maid with no connections, no money, no status. Even if you weren't engaged, we could never. Then we leave. The words came out fierce, determined. We leave Korea. Start over somewhere your past doesn't matter and my family name is just a name. She stared at him, certain she'd misheard. What? I have money of my own. Investments my grandfather left me that my father can't touch. Enough for us to live comfortably anywhere in the world. He was close now, close enough to touch but still not touching, waiting for permission. We could go to Lagos. Or London. Or anywhere you want. Anywhere we can just be Yuri and Woojin without all this weight crushing us. You're insane. But hope bloomed treacherously in her chest. You can't just abandon your family, your responsibilities. Watch me. His hand came up, cupping her face with heartbreaking gentleness. I've spent my whole life being what they needed me to be. The perfect son, the ideal heir, the convenient husband. For once I want to choose something for myself. I want to choose you. A sob caught in her throat. What about Jiwon? She doesn't deserve. Jiwon doesn't love me either. This marriage is a political alliance, nothing more. Her father wants my family's business connections, my mother wants her father's political influence. Jiwon and I are just convenient pieces on their chessboard. His thumb wiped away a tear that had escaped down her cheek. She'll be fine. Probably relieved, honestly. He has a boyfriend, some artist her father disapproves of. Without me, she'll be free to choose him. You're asking me to blow up both our lives on a maybe. Yuri's voice shook. What if it doesn't work? What if you wake up in 6 months and regret giving up everything for me? What if I don't? His forehead pressed against hers, intimate and desperate. What if this is the one real thing in my perfectly constructed life? What if you're the only choice I've ever made that actually mattered? She closed her eyes, breathing him in. I'm scared. Me too. His lips brushed her temple, feather soft. But I'm more scared of letting you go. Of marrying Jiwon and spending the rest of my life wondering what if. Of becoming my father, rich and powerful and absolutely miserable. When? The question escaped before she could stop it, and she knew in that moment she'd already decided. Already chosen him over safety, over sense, over everything she'd worked so hard to build. 2 weeks. There's a business conference in Singapore. I'm expected to attend. Instead we disappear. I'll arrange everything. Tickets, accounts, documents. You just have to trust me. 2 weeks, she repeated, testing the words. 14 days until her life changed forever. What do we do until then? We're careful. We're smart. We give them no reason to suspect. He pulled back slightly, meeting her eyes. Can you do that? Can you pretend nothing's changed while we plan our escape? She thought of her mother, her siblings, the life she'd be leaving behind. Then she thought of waking up beside Woojin in some sun-drenched city where no one knew or cared about their differences. Thought of building something real, something chosen, something hers. Yes, she whispered. I can do that. His smile was like sunrise, transforming his face from merely handsome to transcendent. Thank you, he breathed and kissed her, slow and sweet and full of promise. Thank you for choosing me. They stood there for a long moment, wrapped in each other, the breakfast cooling forgotten on the table. Eventually, reluctantly, Yuri pulled away. I should go. Someone will notice if I'm in here too long. Tonight, he said. After dinner service, meet me in the garden pavilion. We'll plan everything. She nodded, straightening her uniform, trying to smooth away evidence of their embrace. At the door she paused. What if something goes wrong? His expression turned serious. Then we adapt. Whatever happens, we face it together. I promise you that. The promise settled over her like a vow. She slipped out into the corridor, heart racing with fear and exhilaration in equal measure. 2 weeks. 14 days until freedom or disaster, she wasn't sure which. The day passed in a surreal haze. Yuri moved through her duties on autopilot, scrubbing floors and folding laundry while her mind spun with logistics and terror. She'd need to tell her mother something. Not the truth, never the truth, but some explanation for why the money might stop, why she'd be unreachable. The thought of that conversation made her stomach clench. At lunch, she served Woojin in his study, their fingers brushing as she set down his plate. The touch sent electricity through her, and from the sharp intake of his breath, she knew he felt it too. They didn't speak, but his eyes followed her movements with barely concealed hunger. In the kitchen afterward, Mrs. Choi cornered her. You're glowing, the housekeeper said flatly. Whatever you're doing, stop it. Before it's too late. I don't know what you mean. But the lie felt transparent, flimsy as tissue paper. Mrs. Choi's expression softened into something like pity. Yes, you do. And I know I can't stop you. No one could stop Soojin either. Just be careful. The Han family doesn't forgive easily and they never forget. The warning chilled her, but not enough to change her mind. That evening, after serving dinner to the main family, Woojin's parents discussing business, his younger sister complaining about university, everything aggressively normal, Yuri slipped out to the garden. The pavilion sat at the far end of the property, hidden by carefully manicured trees and flowering bushes. Woojin was already there, pacing like a caged animal. When he saw her, relief flooded his face. "I was afraid you wouldn't come." He pulled her into the shadows, kissing her deeply. "I was afraid you'd changed your mind." "Not yet." She tried to make it sound like a joke, but the tremor in her voice betrayed her. "Show me the plan." They sat on the pavilion bench, heads bent over his phone as he walked her through everything. The flights he'd book under assumed names, the apartment he'd rent in Singapore initially, the bank account he'd already set up. Every detail considered, every contingency planned for. Should have been reassuring. Instead, it felt like standing on the edge of a cliff, wind at her back, nothing but air ahead. "What about your family?" she asked. "Won't they come after you?" "Probably. But my grandfather's will was ironclad. They can't touch that money. And once we're gone long enough, they'll realize it's easier to write me off as a disgrace than to drag me back and deal with the scandal." He took her hand, lacing their fingers together. "I'm not saying it will be easy. But it will be ours." "Ours." The word wrapped around her heart like a promise and a prayer. "Okay," she said. "Let's do this." They stayed in the garden until late, planning and dreaming and stealing kisses between logistical discussions. When they finally parted, Yuri felt lighter than she had in years. Terrified and reckless and impossibly, dangerously happy. She didn't notice the figure watching from an upper window, face obscured by darkness but eyes tracking every embrace, every kiss. Didn't see the phone raised, camera capturing evidence that would change everything. Didn't know that their 2 weeks of careful pretending had just been reduced to days, maybe hours, before everything came crashing down. The betrayal came on a Tuesday morning, swift and surgical as a blade between the ribs. Yuri was in the laundry room, folding Woojin's shirts with hands that had memorized the shape of his shoulders, when Minji burst through the door. The older woman's face was pale, her usually steady hands trembling as she gripped Yuri's arm. "You need to leave. No. Right now." "What?" "Minji, what's happened?" "Mrs. Han knows. About you and the young master." Minji's voice dropped to a frantic whisper. "Someone took photos. You in the garden kissing him. She's in a rage, Yuri. He's calling a family meeting. You have maybe 10 minutes before security comes for you." The world tilted sickeningly. "Photos? Who? Does it matter?" Minji was already pulling her toward the servants' exit. "What matters is getting you out before this gets worse. Mrs. Han doesn't just fire people, Yuri. She destroys them. Your visa, your references, your reputation. She'll make sure you never work in Korea again. Maybe never work anywhere." Panic clawed at Yuri's throat. "I need to see Woojin. I need to tell him." "He's already in the meeting. His mother summoned him first." Minji thrust a small bundle into her hands. Yuri's phone, passport, a handful of OneNotes. "I grabbed what I could from your room. Go. Get to the main road, catch a taxi, disappear. Maybe he can fix this, maybe he can't, but you can't be here when his mother comes looking. Buy things. Forget your things. Forget everything. Just go." The urgency in Minji's voice finally penetrated the shock. Yuri stumbled toward the exit, then stopped. "Why are you helping me?" Minji's expression crumpled. "Because I couldn't help Sujin. Because you deserve a chance, even if it's a small one. Now go before I regret this." Yuri ran. She fled through the servants' gate, down the hill, her uniform drawing stares from morning commuters. Her phone buzzed incessantly, missed calls from a number she didn't recognize, texts from Woojin flooding in. "Where are you?" "Yuri, answer me. My mother knows. Stay away from the house. I'm handling this. I promise. Just tell me you're safe." Her hands shook too badly to type a response. She flagged down a taxi, gave the driver her boarding house address. A place she'd lived before the Han family, before Woojin, when life was simple and predictable and crushing. The room was exactly as she'd left it 6 months ago, dusty and small and depressingly anonymous. Yuri collapsed on the narrow bed, finally letting the tears come. Stupid. She'd been so stupid. They'd had 10 days left, 10 more days of careful pretending, and someone had destroyed it all with a camera phone in spite. Her phone rang. "Woojin." She answered with trembling fingers. "Thank God." His voice was ragged, strained. "Are you safe?" Where are you? My old boarding house. Woojin, what's happening? Your mother knows everything. Well, almost everything. She doesn't know about Singapore, about us leaving. She thinks this is just another, he choked on the word, another conquest. Another maid I seduced and discarded. Who took the photos? My sister's boyfriend. He was visiting, saw us in the garden, thought he could curry favor with my mother by exposing this scandal. Bitter laughter. It worked. She's furious. Not because I'm cheating on Ji-won, she expects that. But because I was stupid enough to get caught, and with a foreign employee no less. It reflects poorly on the family. Yuri's stomach turned. What did you tell her? The truth. That I love you. That I'm not marrying Ji-won. That I'm leaving. Pause heavy with meaning. She didn't take it well. Woojin. She threatened to have you deported. To contact immigration, claim you violated your visa terms by engaging in inappropriate relationships with your employer. He has lawyers, Yuri. Expensive lawyers who can make your life hell. Fear turned her blood to ice. Can she do that? I don't know. Maybe. Probably. His voice cracked. But I won't let her. We leave today. Not in 10 days, today. Right now. I'm packing, pulling cash from accounts she can't freeze. We meet at Incheon Airport in 2 hours. There's a flight to Hong Kong at 3. We get on it and we disappear before she can mobilize her lawyers. 2 hours. Yuri looked around the room at the life she'd built from nothing. When I can't just. We can. This is what we planned, just faster. Desperation bled into his words. Unless you've changed your mind? Unless this is too much, too fast, too. No. The word came out fierce, certain. No, I haven't changed my mind. I love you. Silence on the other end, then a shaky exhale. Say it again. I love you, Woojin Han. Stupidly, recklessly, completely. I love you too. His voice steadied, finding strength in the admission. Incheon Airport. Terminal 2. 2 hours. Can you make it? Yes. She was already moving, grabbing her passport, the emergency cash she'd hidden in her mattress. I'll be there. Yuri. Whatever happens next, whatever my family tries to do, we face it together. I meant what I said. I choose you. I choose you too. She hung up and began gathering the fragments of her portable life. Clothes, documents, her mother's last letter. Things that could fit in a backpack and define a person. Everything else was just weight, just anchors keeping her tethered to a life that was already over. Her phone buzzed again. Not Woojin this time, but her mother, calling at an unusual hour. Yuri stared at the screen, guilt crushing her chest. She should answer. Should explain. Should say goodbye properly. But if she heard her mother's voice, heard the trust and hope and pride that Yuri was about to betray, she might not get on that plane. She let it go to voicemail. 45 minutes later, Yuri stood at a crossroads in Gangnam watching taxis blur past. She had her backpack, her passport, and enough money for a taxi to the airport. In 2 hours she'd board a plane with a man she'd known for barely 2 months, abandoning her family, her promises, everything she'd sacrificed for. Her phone rang once more. Mrs. Han's number. She'd memorized it from calling the house. If she answered, the woman would probably threaten her, maybe bargain, definitely try to control the narrative. But there was a chance, however small, that Mrs. Han might offer something else. Money. A quiet resignation with references. A way out that didn't require burning her entire life down. Yuri's finger hovered over the answer button. In the distance she could see the signs pointing toward the airport expressway. Toward Woojin. Toward the terrifying unknown they'd chosen together. Her phone stopped ringing. The moment passed. She flagged down a taxi and gave the driver directions to Incheon. Incheon Airport buzzed with controlled chaos. Businessmen rushing to gates, families dragging luggage, the anonymous crush of humanity in transit. Yuri stood near the international departures board, backpack clutched to her chest like armor, searching the crowd for Woojin's face. Her phone showed 2:17 p.m. 43 minutes until boarding. No messages, no missed calls since she'd left Gangnam. The silence felt ominous, a held breath before the storm. Yuri. She spun. Woojin emerged from the crowd looking disheveled and desperate, a single duffel bag slung over his shoulder. Relief crashed over her so powerfully she nearly sobbed. You came. He pulled her into his arms, heedless of the stares. I was terrified you'd change your mind. I'm here. She breathed him in, memorizing the moment. Did anyone follow you? I don't think so. I took 3 different taxis, doubled back twice. He pulled away just enough to see her face. We should check in. Get through security before. Woojin. The voice cut through the airport noise like a knife. They turned in unison. Mrs. Han stood 15 feet away, flanked by 2 men in dark suits. Lawyers or security, Yuri couldn't tell. The matriarch of the Han family looked immaculate as always, but rage simmered beneath her composed exterior like magma beneath ice. Mother. Woojin's arm tightened around Yuri's waist. How did you find you? Please. You used your credit card for the taxi. Did you really think I wouldn't track you? Mrs. Han's gaze slid to Yuri with contempt so concentrated it felt physical. So this is the girl worth destroying your future for. How disappointing. Don't speak to her like that. Woojin stepped forward, shielding Yuri. We're leaving. You can't stop us. Can't I? Mrs. Han's smile was glacial. You're right that your grandfather's money is beyond my reach. But hers. She gestured at Yuri dismissively. Her visa is contingent on employment with an approved sponsor. The moment she leaves with you, she becomes illegal. Do you understand what that means? She'll be flagged at every border, denied entry to most countries. You'll be fugitives, darling. Is that the life you want? Yuri's blood turned cold. She'd known there would be consequences, but hearing them laid out so clinically made them real. Permanent. Then I'll marry her. Woojin's voice rang with defiance. Today. Right now. That will solve the visa issue. You're already engaged, Mrs. Han countered smoothly. To Lee Ji-won, daughter of Minister Kong. Breaking that engagement will cause a scandal that could destroy business relationships your father spent decades building. The Kong family doesn't forgive insults, Woojin. They have the power to ruin us. Then let them ruin you. I don't care anymore. Perhaps you don't. But what about her? Mrs. Han turned her predatory focus on Yuri. Tell me, Miss Alba. Have you contacted your family today? Your mother, perhaps? Your siblings? Dread pooled in Yuri's stomach. What have you done? Nothing. Yet. The threat hung in the air like poison. But I have connections in Nigeria. People who could make life very difficult for your family. Your mother's medication, expensive, isn't it? And your brother's university placement, your sister's school fees. Also precarious. One word from me to the right people and everything you've worked for collapses. You're threatening my family? Yuri's voice shook with fury. You would hurt innocent people because your son wants to live his own life? I'm protecting my family. As you've been protecting yours. Mrs. Han's expression didn't waver. We're not so different, you and I. We both understand sacrifice. So let me make you an offer. Mother, don't. Quiet. Mrs. Han silenced Woojin with a look. Miss Alba. I'll give you 2 million won. Enough to support your family for a year. I'll provide excellent references for employment anywhere else in Asia. And I'll ensure your family faces no complications from my network. All you have to do is walk away. Get on a different plane. Disappear from my son's life and never contact him again. The offer landed like a physical blow. 2 million won. A year of security for her family. Freedom from the constant anxiety of making ends meet. And all it would cost was Woojin. Don't listen to her. Woojin gripped Yuri's hand. She's manipulating you. We can protect your family ourselves. Can you? Mrs. Han interrupted. From Nigeria? While running from immigration authorities. While my lawyers freeze any accounts you try to set up. Be realistic, would you? You're throwing away everything for a fantasy. This girl, she said the word like a curse, isn't worth it. Stop. Yuri's voice cut through the argument, quiet but absolute. Both Woojin's, mother and son, fell silent watching her. The airport swirled around them, Thousands of people making their own choices, following their own paths. Yuri thought of her mother's tired voice on their last call, the pride when she talked about Yuri's sacrifice. Thought of her siblings' futures, bright and possible because of money she'd sent home. Thought of the weight she'd carried alone for so long. Then she thought of Woojin's hands on her face, his voice saying I choose you. Thought of mornings in his room talking about everything and nothing. Thought of feeling seen, truly seen for the first time in her life. She looked at Mrs. Han at the cold calculation in her eyes. You think you're protecting your son. But you're just teaching him that love is something to be controlled. Bargained away. That he's not allowed to choose his own happiness. Happiness. Mrs. Han's laugh was sharp. How naive. Happiness is a luxury, Miss Alba. Survival requires sacrifice. I know about sacrifice, Yuri said quietly. I've sacrificed everything for my family. My education, my dreams, my home. I came to Korea and worked jobs that broke my body and spirit because I love them. Because their survival mattered more than my happiness. She turned to Woojin, seeing the fear and hope warring in his expression. But I'm tired of sacrificing. I'm tired of choosing everyone else's life over my own. Yuri, Woojin started, but she held up a hand. I need to ask you something and I need you to be honest. Her voice steadied, finding certainty in the chaos. If we do this, if we run, will you resent me? In a year, 5 years, 10? When you remember everything you gave up, will you look at me and wish you'd made a different choice? He didn't answer immediately and she loved him for that. For taking the question seriously, for not offering empty reassurances. I don't know, he finally said. I can't promise I won't have moments of doubt. But I can promise that every time I look at you, I'll remember that I chose authenticity over obligation. Love over duty. And that matters more than any sacrifice. Yuri nodded slowly. Then she turned to Mrs. Han. Thank you for your offer. But I'm declining. You're making a mistake. Maybe. Probably. Yuri felt something shift inside her, a weight lifting. But it's my mistake to make. I've spent my whole life making safe choices, practical choices. Choices that kept everyone else comfortable. For once, I'm choosing something just because I want it. Even if it destroys me. She faced Woojin, taking both his hands. I don't need you to save me or protect my family or promise me a perfect future. I just need you to mean it. Every day, even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. I mean it. His voice was rough with emotion. Every word, every promise. You're not a phase or a rebellion or a midlife crisis at 30. You're the first real thing in my perfectly constructed life. Then let's go. Yuri picked up her backpack, feeling lighter than she had in years. Let's see what real looks like. They started toward security. Behind them, Mrs. Han called out, if you leave Woojin, you'll be disowned. Cut off from the family completely. Is she really worth that? Woojin didn't stop walking. Yes, he said simply. She is. The security line moved slowly, giving Yuri time to send one last message to her mother. I love you. I'm sorry. I'll explain everything soon. Keep the faith. She attached a bank transfer. Everything she had left in her account, 3 months of saved salary. It wasn't enough, would never be enough. But it was something. Her mother's response came as they reached the metal detectors. Whatever you're doing, be safe. Be happy. That's all I've ever wanted for you. Yuri blinked back, tears. Through security, past duty-free shops selling promises of elsewhere toward their gate. Woojin held her hand like a lifeline and she held his back with equal intensity. No regrets? He asked as their flight began boarding. Yuri thought about everything she was leaving behind. Her family, her country, the careful life she'd built from nothing. Thought about everything ahead. Uncertainty, struggle, the terrifying freedom of choosing herself. Ask me in 50 years, she said and kissed him as their boarding group was called. They boarded together toward Hong Kong and beyond, toward a future they'd have to build from scratch. Behind them, Seoul glittered with all its impossible promises. Ahead, the sky waited, vast and unknowable. Yuri settled into her seat and laced her fingers through Woojin's. Whatever came next, joy or disaster, triumph or regret, at least it would be theirs. At least for once she had chosen. Sometimes love doesn't whisper. It demands. It asks what you're willing to lose, and who you're brave enough to choose. Yuri and Woojin's story reminds us that love isn't about comfort or approval. It's about courage. And somewhere in the world right now, someone is standing at their own airport, deciding whether to stay safe or follow their heart. If this story moved you, don't let it end here. Subscribe to Afro Asia Diaries for more unforgettable love stories where cultures meet, hearts collide, and destinies are rewritten. Like this video to help more people discover stories that deserve to be felt. And in the comments tell us, would you abandon everything for love, or protect the life you built? Your answer might inspire our next story.